It's been an honor serving with you all.
Coming up, Jean Luc Picard, Riker, and Worf go on a suicide mission to rescue Jack Crusher from the clutches of the Borg Queen.
Titan is still under the control of the Collective. We have to find a way to disconnect this ship from fleet formation.
7 of 9 and Raffi fight tooth and nail to take back control of the Titan.
Destroy the cube now, and we kill everyone down there. If we wait, it's everyone else in the galaxy.
Beverly Crusher makes a heartbreaking decision that could kill everyone she loves.
But look at you. A chip off the old block.
My father told me all about you.
And an omnipotent being, once the bane of Jean Luc's existence, pays Jack a surprise visit from the dead.
All this and more.
Coming up as Energize salutes the series finale of Star Trek Picard.
Energize.
Energize.
We're jumping to warp speed with Jean Luc Picard and the Star Trek Next Generation crew.
You're listening to Energize, a Star Trek Picard podcast, your source for in-depth analysis, colorful debate, and exciting discussions about the final adventure of Admiral Jean Luc Picard and the Enterprise D crew. I'm your host, Anthony McLemore.
And I'm Steve Truitt.
This week, the Federation is under full assault by its assimilated officers as Picard and the Enterprise crew try to rescue and unplug Jack Crusher from the Borg Collective.
And 7 of 9 and Raffi take on their assimilated crew members for control of the ship and the entire compromised fleet.
Can Picard and his crew save his son and the Federation before it's too late?
Here's a warp speed recap of the series finale of Star Trek Picard, Episode 10, The Last Generation.
Long-range sensors are picking up a Borg vessel. Jupiter, sir.
Borg must be amplifying it from somewhere on that cube.
Our objective is clear. Locate it and destroy it. That will sever the connection to the assimilated fleet.
Titan is still under the control of the Collective. We have to find a way to disconnect this ship from fleet formation.
Jack! You hear me?
Concentrate all firepower on command. Fire,
Jack,
fire,
I'm
fire.
here.
Yeah.
I'm here to take you.
Locutus has returned.
We've taken a direct hit. All systems non-responsive.
Commander, the Borg crew are making their way to the bridge.
About that cloak, we're dead in the water.
I vowed never to return to the Collective. I've been running for half of my life, but not now. Now I have something to go back for.
Okay, Steve. Oh my gosh, where do we start? Where do we start?
I don't know.
I don't
know.
I'm
crying. I'm upset.
I'm experiencing a wide range of emotions: elation, sadness.
Oh my God! What do you say?
Jubilation. You name it. I'm feeling it.
Heartwarming, beautiful, and this is the end. The end. The end. And you know what's funny, Anthony? I was thinking I didn't feel this way when Next Generation ended in '94, simply because in that beautiful last episode, All Good Things, we knew that, a year later there'd be a movie. Oh, they're making a movie. We'll be fine. I didn't feel that sadness. It was a lovely ending. But now this is like the end, period, end of story.
Yes, there's definitely a sense of finality with this. So in this episode, Jean Luc Picard and Enterprise D crew members are aboard their old ship and they go on a rescue mission to save Jack Crusher. And the deal is to rescue him and to stop the signal that has all of the Federation's youngest crew members biologically, which I thought was very great, a very cool scheme, part of the Borg Collective.
Yeah, and even though they kind of got rid of changelings in a way, we see the progression there. They use the changelings to implant Borg technology biologically into these young cadets. And it was a really well thought out great idea.
You have, two main storylines that are happening simultaneously. You have Seven and Raffi aboard the Titan, and they're the lone wolves, trying to prevent a total collapse of Earth's defenses.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm thinking, okay, what, I just get this sense of dread, like someone's going to die, someone's going to sacrifice. I just had the whole time, I'm like, we're not all getting out of here alive. How is this going to end? And what kind of cliffhangers or if there are any or surprises will there be at the end? Because they're going to serve that up.
Exactly. I felt the same way. So the biggest question was, how was it all going to end? And there was a shocking surprise at the end. So let's dive straight in, Steve.
Let's do it.
This is President Anton Chekhov of the United Federation of Planets, broadcasting on all emergency channels. Do not approach Earth.
So we start off with, a distress call, or not even a distress call, an actual warning from the president of the Federation, who is Anton Chekhov. And there was a little bit of fan service there, doubly.
Well, one, because it's the son of Pavel Chekhov, and of course, because it's Anton, and Anton Yelchin played Chekhov in the movies, and, he was killed a few years ago. So I as soon as I heard that, I knew that's what it was, and I just thought it was a beautiful thing to do. Yeah,
it was such a great nod in two directions. Yeah. One, bringing Walter Koenig back to hear his voice. I knew that was him immediately, and
for sure.
Yeah, and the nod towards Anton, or dedication or tribute towards him, and just that feeling of desperation, the crackly message, and the ending with "Good luck."
Good luck, and it was interesting that Koenig kept going kind of in and out of the Chekhov voice, just in case a few of us didn't realize who it was. So I thought that was kind of cool, too.
Long-range sensors are picking up a Borg vessel. Jupiter, sir.
Laying a course. Maximum warp.
Aye, Captain.
Engage.
And so Picard and company aboard the Enterprise D were heading towards Earth, but they pick up that there's a vessel, a Borg vessel, at Jupiter. Yeah. And so they fly there and they find it hiding in the eye. So
I love this because I loved it because it reminded me. I don't know if you know this movie, 2010, The Year We Make Contact.
Yes,
it's the sequel to 2001. Directed by Peter Hyams. Roy Scheider stars in it. They go out there and they're right over the eye and they see that monolith. So I'm thinking, well, they're going to find the Borg cube, and boom, there it is. Not only in front of the eye, but like integrated into the eye, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh, very much so. And so it makes complete sense that they would be within our solar system, because that signal has to be strong enough to completely change all of our youngins within the fleet.
Deanna, can you... Jack is there. But he's totally consumed by the collective.
Beverly, is able to identify Jack's life signs aboard the Borg ship, and he's completely interfaced. And because there's interference, they're going to have to board that Borg cube.
Yeah, and here I'm wondering, what's the situation here? Jack went there willingly. I think he meant to kill her because he raised the gun, or the phaser rather, but he gave up really fast. And I'm wondering, is he there as a spy, a double agent? What are we going to find when we get there? That scared me.
Yeah. I think he went there with good intentions, but he was just outmatched. I think he's just a young kid who doesn't know what he's playing with, what he's up against.
Yeah, and he's always gotten out of things, so maybe thinks he can get out of this one.
Yep.
You're not going alone.
And I will make it a threesome.
Do you even hear yourself?
So because we have to go over there, Picard is obviously going to go. That's his son. And loyal William Riker decides he's going to come, and Worf is going to join him. I'll make it a threesome.
And Worf goes, I'll make it a threesome. And Riker's like, do you even hear yourself?
Yeah.
It's so great. I mean,
go ahead.
They make Worf was the absolute comic relief this whole season. I loved it. He was kind of the comic relief, I guess, during this series. Now and then it was very funny. But in this season, he was just awesome and so funny, so funny.
Oh, the writers did a great job, and they didn't like undermine his character. They didn't make him, they didn't make him a joke. He just had good jokes written, and he was still classic Worf, but just a kinder, gentler, funnier one, more caring one.
He's 20 years later, Worf, just like Picard was 20 years later, and everybody else is 20 years later. We haven't seen these people in 20 years. Of course they've changed, and I love, just to your point, how the writers really stuck the landing on each character's change. It just was fantastic.
Mr. LaForge, you have the bridge.
Aye, sir.
It's been an honor serving with you all.
So Picard gives the command to LaForge, so he has the bridge, and
love that.
Yeah, it's just awesome and appropriate. And these were what happens next is just one of many moments across this whole episode that literally had me in tears. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah,
here comes the first one.
Well, the first one is, Riker stops. He pauses before he goes to the turbo lift and he looks at Deanna, and they just share a look. And, my thought is that's the last time they're going to see each other. And they kind of accept that. They're like, okay, I don't need to say anything to you. We've had 35 years. God knows more than that. How long is their story? Long before TNG. They've had decades together.
And she's a Betazoid, so he didn't have to say it.
Yeah.
She just felt it.
Right. And then Picard stops and he turns around and he's like, it's been an honor serving with you. And it was such a wonderful moment. It's one of those things that you see in movies, especially in military movies, where someone says, gentlemen, it's been an honor serving with you. And, it's always the thing you say. But in this case, that wasn't this mission. It's been an honor for the last 35 years. And again, I'm thinking, they're going to die. And I start freaking out. I don't want to watch it anymore. I'm like, they're going to die.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're being sent on a trajectory. Somebody's going to die.
Yeah. No movement. No sound.
A cube this size, there should be thousands of drones. Armies.
You appear to be oddly disappointed you're not outnumbered.
And so they beam aboard the Borg cube, and we find that the ship is dead. Pretty much dead. There aren't Borg soldiers everywhere, and the ones that they come across are deteriorating as if their flesh is being cannibalized.
Yeah, it's being absorbed, and you're like, well, what does that mean? Like, I always wondered what happens to an old Borg, and now we kind of find out they're starting to deteriorate. There's no defenses like they thought there would be. There's no thousands of drones walking around. It's kind of a ghost town, so to speak.
Yep. And so then another touching moment happens, and Picard parts ways with Riker and Worf.
The time has come for us to part ways. I can no longer be your captain. I now have to be a father.
He's now, taking on the role of being a father. I'm going after my son. And this one got me more than the first, him saying it was an honor to his crew.
I know. He's like, and again, I'm thinking, someone's dying here, and I'm just waiting for, who's it going to be? Which one of these three, if not all of them, are going to die? Because they just keep setting up these tearful goodbyes. And it's one of two things. Either they're all going to die and this is a goodbye, or they're just letting each other know how much they love each other. We'll find out, but either way, it didn't matter. It was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And Worf's like, there's two things Klingons don't admit. One of them is defeat, and the other one is farewell. And they just turn and they go, and it was just perfect.
Yeah, perfect. And it was just so well acted by Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes. I mean, genius. It was just really, really cool because you could feel it. And I think they're true friendship, because we all know that they have always gotten together throughout the years.
Oh, sure.
They're true friends, but you could feel their character friendship and their true life friendship in that moment. And his voice cracked. He was just like, I appreciate you. It was good.
Yeah, that was real. They might have even shot that at a time. Maybe it was the last shot. Who knows? But I'm not crying, you're crying kind of.
Yeah.
moment.
And I think this whole section here was just, a big, a moment to put all your affairs in order. And so Beverly attempts to apologize for hiding Jack's existence from Picard all those years. And Picard gives her grace.
Jean Luc,
Beverly, you thought of Jack from the beginning, shielding him from danger.
He's like, look, you have been... Every choice you made was the right one. You wanted to keep him out of danger, and that was the right thing to do. And just considering all they've been through, I just think that was the most generous thing. And again, if you think you're going to die, like Picard might have thought, you're going to forgive people. You're going to be generous and gracious, and he was.
Yep. And just like I said, not a lot of words needed. Just
no, not with this crew.
No,
nope.
No. And I think that's well played. It wasn't overwritten, and so I really appreciate that the writers respected the synergy between them all, the chemistry between them all.
Yeah. And you say writers, in this episode, it was Terry Mateus who wrote the whole thing. He wrote and directed this episode.
Oh, yeah. So it shows because there was one voice.
And it's interesting to me. I never heard of Terry before Picard. And I'm like, how did you become such a super fan? I guess he was just a super fan.
He's always been around. He started, like in the lowest ranks and worked himself up through the Star Trek Paramount world.
Well, they finally got someone who knows what the hell they're doing, because he just did a yeoman's job, just a phenomenal job.
Jack, you hear me?
Concentrate all firepower on command.
Jack, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here to take you.
Locutus has returned.
So Picard finds Jack, and he's all plugged in, of course, and very ironically, he is basically the new Locutus.
He looks like him too, because he's got the same kind of facial implants. They didn't dig into the eye, which they didn't do with Locutus either, but he's got that kind of round face thing going.
Yep, except he has his hair, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yep, and then we find a decaying Borg Queen. Alice Krieg is back.
Yes, and so we hear that voice again, which is that unmistakable original Borg Queen voice, and we finally get to see her, but she's not like she was in First Contact. She's wildly deformed, and she looks like an old tree that has been sapped of water. She's just a mess. You can see her ribs. There's some crap growing on her face. She's not in a good space.
Yep, and she welcomes Picard home. So we've come full circle in Picard's storyline.
Right. In the Borg Picard storyline.
Yep,
for
exactly.
Sure.
You're a liar, a deceiver. You've wormed your way into his head.
He found me at the very edge of space where you left us. Poison.
So we find out that the Borg was crippled by one of Picard's last interactions with them, and the Federation left them dying. When she
and I think that was the Hugh algorithm that they planted into the Borg.
Yep, that makes complete sense.
And it wasn't an algorithm, but it was Hugh. Putting Hugh back into the Borg really split them up, and now we see. And this is interesting to me because there's several things going on here. Just last season, we saw the Borg Queen in full regalia, but she was in an alternate timeline. Okay, so that makes sense. So that's not Alice Krieg Borg Queen. I get that. But we also saw the Borg Queen in Voyager. She's been around, so. It's curious for me to wonder, how did she actually get here, and is this the one true Borg Queen?
I believe so. I think it's the one true Borg Queen. It was the one that Picard went head-to-head with. And so, so
it's Alice Krieg, you're right.
So somehow, some way, she contacted with Jack when he was in the outer reaches.
But let me just ask you a question.
Yeah.
So he split her spine at the end of First Contact.
Yes.
Right? Then... she shows up in Voyager or something, and I think she shows up in Enterprise, and she definitely shows up in last season, And I think the way they write it away is they say, oh, you three-dimensional creatures have such little idea of what time is, right? They always kind of just dismiss it with, oh, you don't get it, do you? But yeah, I don't get it. Like, her spine was snapped. How did she come back? So that just remains confusing for me. I want that explained somehow.
I know, it's worth explaining. But nonetheless, she's here, but she's crippled. And that's how they formed their partnership with the Changelings. And they came to the realization that the only way that we can evolve is to forego assimilation. You know, that's old. That's an old way of thinking, and it's an old approach. And we're going to go with, you know, all in on evolution, which is what they did, the biological way.
Which is brilliant because it relies not on conquer, but subterfuge. And the way I don't know who's had the idea to put the changelings with the Borg and the changelings with the agents of changeling, so to speak, and they deliver Borg. Just the whole thing with the transfers and the beaming Picard's DNA. It's, oh my God, you need a PhD from MIT to figure it all out, but it was just genius.
The sword!
Oh, shit! I had no idea it was that heavy.
So Worf and Riker do end up battling with some Borg drones, and, you know, Worf is Worf. I mean, he was kicking ass, but he also took some hits himself.
Yeah. Again, he gets injured, and I'm like, is this where he dies, right? He gets shot, I think, once.
Riker jumps in and saves him, finds the phaser in his battle handle.
Yeah, he pulls it. Yeah, he goes, you've had a phaser there the whole time? And he's like, swords are more fun.
Yeah, classic Worf. And that's what I go back to. That's classic Worf.
That's classic Worf. Exactly.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Borg cube attacks the Enterprise D, and Beverly's at tactical, and she kicks ass to the point to everyone's amazement.
Doctor, I didn't have time to work on the weapons system, so you're gonna have to do it manually.
Torpedoes away, locking phasers and returning fire.
There's a moment she fires full spread, and she fires the phasers, and they all just and she knocks out all of the gun turrets from the Borg cube that they needed to do, like in one swoop. And they all just kind of slowly turn and look at her, and she's just like, yeah, lots happened in the last 20 years.
Yep.
It was so great.
Yep. So, our big thing now is we've identified the source. They're within the heart of the cube, and they have to get there to destroy it. And so
so that source is that beacon, right?
Is the beacon.
And we've seen the term beacon before in First Contact. They were trying to build an interplexing beacon over the deflector dish too. So it's always a beacon that they're trying to reach other people.
Data, what the hell are you doing?
I've got this, Geordi.
Data, it's impossible.
Data?
Trust me.
Data, I said no.
So Data wants to fly it in there, but Geordi's a little hesitant about it. But Data, new Data, I like new Data. He's
I think I do too.
Yeah, he's more emotional, and he's
but he's not Data with the emotion chip, right? He's not like, I can't handle these feelings. He's like, okay, I'm going to bounce back and forth. And when he's serious, he's Data, and when he's personality part, some of the lore is in there. Yeah, he's kind of perfect, actually.
Yeah, he's perfect. He's the complete whole person now. And so he convinces Geordi to let him do it. But he's the perfect guy to do it because he can process things at an exponential speed.
I know it. I think that maybe Geordi forgot that he's a machine, because they're like, it would take billions of calculations to fly our way into the cube and get right to the... And he's like, I can do that. And he's like, no, Data, it's impossible. And he's like, he should have just said, dude, I'm an android. But he's like, no, he appeals to his heart, and he's like, trust me, I can do this. And he does it like a human would do. And they're like, okay, let's go with Data's gut.
All right, you two, seal the lift doors. Lock us in here. Everyone, stations.
While Picard and company have been, taking on the Borg Queen in the cube and trying to rescue Jack, 7 of 9 and Raffi have been having a bloody battle of their own, starting with trying to take back the Titan. I loved it. She's so badass.
It's fantastic, and there's a lot going on here, and they get into the bridge, and they're able to get the kids out of the bridge by transporting them. So it's a kind of a weird thing. They shoot at them, and when they get hit, these Borg children, they just beam immediately out. It's a really weird and interesting defense. It's a new idea, which I thought was great.
Oh yeah, that was really,
where they're going, we're not sure.
Yeah, really cool. I mean, and like I said before, in previous episodes of Energize, I mean, Jeri Ryan has just done a superb job. All around in her acting and making Seven this force to reckon with.
Yeah, I agree. She has not had a bad moment the last 3 years. I think that this is the 7 of 9 that Jeri Ryan always wanted to play. In Voyager, she had to be more Borg-like and put her hair up and be, I want to explore human sexuality, and all that, and just that silliness. But now she's just like, fuck that. I'm a ranger and I'm going for it. And
yeah, she's reached icon status.
I think so. I agree. She's in there. She's in the pantheon.
Yeah.
There's a Federation ship near a Borg keep.
It's Picard. They're engaging the Borg.
So, like you said, that bridge takeover scene was brilliant. I didn't know how it was going to go down. It was crazy. But once they take over the bridge, she basically has the remaining adults with her. Yeah. And there's this one guy, he's a cook.
Oh, my God. He's like, and she's like, take the pilot seat. And he's like, I'm a cook. Like, see, like, and he starts explaining. He's like, see, I shouldn't even be here because my mom got sick, and then my brother got like shingles. And
I gave a pilot training.
Take your station.
You're a pilot, dude. Right. You're a pilot now.
You're a pilot. Sit down. And what happens is that's never explored again. The guy ends up doing these phenomenal maneuvers. Well, I mean, they had to do it, but anyway.
Yeah, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, you do what you got to do. Seven and Raffi find out that Picard is there on the Borg cube and trying to buy time. They're trying to buy time for each other, really. They need to like hold off the fleet.
Yeah, I mean, it's in dire straits because Space Dock is on the verge of going down, which is the entire defense grid for Earth.
Which to me is a little strange because, like, for the entire planet, you have this one space dock that's the entire defense grid. That confused me a little.
Well, I think of it as control. Maybe it's, central. I mean, that is a big, a big platform.
Yeah, well, it was huge, but I mean, it's in one geosynchronous spot, right? So, I mean, if there were like 10 space docks, I'd get it, and they were all linked. But the thing about it that I was confused about is you had the most intense armada, hundreds of ships, all just continuously firing on this thing. How did it stay up so long? How did it last?
I have no idea, but I assume since this is Earth, this is the hub of the Federation, that it is reinforced to the hilt.
Fleet formation is using a kind of line of sight propagation. In other words,
if they can't see us, they can't control us.
So Raffi and Seven figure out that the fleet is using some kind of line of sight propagation. So if the Titan cloaks, that they can't be controlled.
Yeah, that was a great move.
So Seven has prefix codes to the ships. So that takes down their shields, which is great because that gives them a fighting chance to roll over them.
Right. So they go by and they just start, laying out fire under cloak, which was great. Yeah. Or they lay out fire, then they cloak.
Yeah, just jumping in and out of cloak. And so it really serves the Titan well. And so, in true Seven spirit, she and her crew are the lone wolves. And she gives this great speech.
The Borg have taken our crew, taken our captain. But in this moment, here and now, we are all that is left of Starfleet. It's up to us.
In that moment, I'm like, she is truly a captain.
Captain.
Yes.
And they've been setting her up not just this season, but all 3 years, from being a ranger to where she is now, to a reluctant, first officer, to now, someone who really will take command in a fight. And
Yeah,
without a doubt, an incredible character.
Yes, I've seen interviews with her, and I'm so glad that she decided to come back because she thought that she had closed the book on that character. And it was great that she was convinced to come back because it allowed her to stretch her legs in a way that she never was able to before with the 7 of 9 character.
That's probably why she came back. If they're like, well, you're still a Borg, you're still this, she'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. But they're like, no, it's been 20 years. You've got a personality. You're a badass, blah, 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 blah. She's probably like, yeah, okay, I'll play that part.
We are the Borg. Resistance is futile.
Eliminate all assimilated. Target lock. Berlin. Target lock. Cairo. Target lock. Philadelphia.
So space dock falls and Earth is vulnerable. I can never say vulnerable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so that leaves all the major cities, just ripe for destruction. And
well, now they're targeted, right? So there's all these red dots
Philadelphia,
on all the
San
cities of the
Francisco.
world. God damn. I mean, all the European cities, everything.
Yeah, we're about to get dropped, kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, the stakes are really, really high. Time is short, and we've got to stop this signal once and for all. So, but the Titan's in jeopardy. Sydney and the simulated bridge crew have escaped the locked transporter room, and they destroy the cloaking device.
They're just shooting at it.
Yep.
Right. They're just destroying it, and it's so heartbreaking because both Sydney and her sister, Alondra.
Yes.
They're kind of just like together, and they're robotic, and it's like they're not sisters anymore. They're just Borg. They just lose all sense of their individuality. It really is sad.
What, are you seeing this?
Beacon is interfaced to the very substructure of the ship. Firing on it would trigger a cataclysmic chain reaction. We destroy the beacon. We destroy the cube itself.
Now we're getting, down to the wire. This is down to the nitty gritty.
Yep.
And so, so aboard the Titan, Sydney LaForge and the simulated crew, are heading to the bridge. So, Seven and Raffi know that they're coming. And so, that somebody might die once again. This is it.
Yeah. And while that's happening, we're back on the Enterprise, and they find the beacon, but it's smack dab in the heart of the cube. And they find out, too, if they shoot it and destroy it, it's going to destroy the cube. And who's in the cube but, our 3 guys and Jack Crusher.
Yep. And so, they warn him and say, listen, once we blow it, you've got maybe about a minute. And Riker tells Troy, I can't leave Picard.
Right, of course. And she's like, oh, my God, again with the Picard. Right, but she gets it. She's heartbroken. But, it's like, okay, but let's get you out of there.
Yep.
And then, they all know what the stakes are. They all know that we need to stop this. And this is when the most amazing thing happens. Picard... he's been kind of unplugging Jack a little bit here, a little bit there. And the Borg Queen's like, that's not going to work. It doesn't matter. And Jack's still transmitting. And finally, he grabs the one hose or connection that he knows is the most important. And she's like, what are you doing? She knows exactly what's going on. And right then, I'm like, I know exactly what he's doing. He's going to plug himself back into the collective.
What are you doing?
I vowed never to return to the collective. I've been running for half of my life, but not now. Now I have something to go back for.
Stop!
He's going to be Locutus again. And boy, was he. He shoves that thing in his neck. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. The next thing we see is right back to the assimilation, in season 3. We see him again. I am Locutus and all that. Oh, my God, Anthony. It was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, full circle. I mean, they really went full circle with Picard and the Borg story. And so, we find Jack. He meets up with Jack, and, Jack doesn't want to leave.
No, he's like, I found my home. This is it. I get it. This is preordained before I was born.
Yep.
This is where I belong.
Yep. Uniformity, lack of suffering, everything works together in conjunction with each other, perfect symmetry. And so, Picard makes a very good point. Perfection isn't evolution, it's death.
Real perfection is striving for perfection, not being perfect. There's no such thing. And it is a huge emotional moment because Picard tells Jack, you're the part of my life that I didn't know was missing, and you've changed my life. And, here's a synthetic android, 82 years old, telling his son, you've changed my life. It's amazing.
Yep. And at the same time, the beacon is destroyed. And so...
Well, they decide they have to shoot it, right?
Beverly, begrudgingly, not begrudgingly, but sadly, she knows what she has to do. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few of the one. And so the order's given.
Fire torpedoes.
So the beacon is destroyed. Everything's collapsing around. And, we only have like a few minutes before they'll all be killed. And, Picard knows this, and he tells Jack that he won't leave. He'll stay with him until the end. And that's a father.
And Worf and Riker are looking at each other like, okay, And Worf is like, this is a good death. They're just all ready to accept it. I was ready to accept it. And we see this huge emotion of, I'm not leaving you, from Picard. And it's that moment where Jack snaps out of being a Borg.
I'll stay with you. Till the end. You have changed my life. Forever.
It was really exciting. And to me, even though I should have seen it coming, I was a little surprised. I did not see that coming. I was excited that he got himself out of it.
Yeah, it was great. A father's love. And I think, we can relate to that as fathers. And
of course.
And
yeah.
It was just such a good moment, and it made complete sense.
I love you, Zadi. We'll be waiting, me and our boy.
They're out, and Deanna, senses where they are and brings the ship to them and beams them out.
That was so great. So so they're in there. They've already shot, and they're about to leave because they know it's futile to try to save them. Forgive the futile pun. But Deanna's like, hang on a sec. She gets a sense because Riker was saying goodbye to her.
Yes.
And she sensed that. She's like, I know where they are. She sits in one of the comms where Geordi used to sit, by the way, and she takes them in. And this is my favorite shot of the entire episode, if not one of my favorite of this season. They're all looking up. The sky opens up in this Borg cube, and the Enterprise D comes down, pivots, turns around, does a full yaw, and rests right over them. And you could see all these details of the Enterprise D you didn't see before, all the Aztec design of the plating. And by the way, I just want to go back to the beginning when we saw the Enterprise D, much more detail than we ever saw in TNG. Like, you could see in the windows, you could see what's going on. You could see 10th forward.
Yes, I was just about to say that for the first time. I was like, oh.
God. So amazing. So, I want to watch it again just for that.
Yep. Yep. So it was great.
So they beam them out.
Yep. Beam them out.
They did. Commander, I'm sorry.
It's over.
And then, of course, that unplugs the fleet. The Borg Queen's destroyed. And just as Sydney and the assimilated crew members reach the bridge, and they're about to go, toe-to-toe one last time with Raffi and Seven, they unplug. And, Sydney seems to remember what has been done, and she is distraught.
Yeah.
And
of course,
Seven hugs her.
It's interesting because they're all standing there like, what just happened? I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, damn Generation Z. Of course you don't know what's happening.
You just killed everyone.
Whippersnappers. You just killed everybody. So I want to talk about this for a moment. So Picard and Riker and Jack and Worf returned to the bridge safe. Now, here's the thing. They all survived. Everybody did. All the main characters, except Shaw from last week. I have to admit to you, I was a little disappointed. When Riker said goodbye, I really thought that was it. I thought that's it for Riker. That's his goodbye. not disappointed like I needed them to die or wanted them to die, but it was almost a little too perfect, this ending, because I think it would have been a much better or much deeper gut punch maybe if Picard stayed back with Jack and they just went with the ship, right? That would have been an interesting end to Picard, because he's like 35 years of this Borg. It ends tonight, right? And I'm thinking, okay, you might end with it. Kind of like, at the end of Game of Thrones when the Hound grabbed his brother and they fell into the fire. Like, I was looking for something that was a bit of a sacrifice, and I was a little surprised that they didn't do it.
Or it could have been received as, well, oh crap, it could have been the Cersei situation and her brother. Death by building.
Right. Which
would have been pissed.
Right. That was terrible. But I don't think the way Terry Matalas has been doing this, that's not the way it would have ended. I think it could have been a really beautiful death for someone. I'm glad they all survived. I love them all. But as a goodbye, I think it would have been interesting if maybe even Picard had said goodbye. But that's neither here nor there.
No.
Do you agree, or do you think it was okay?
Yeah. I'm fine with it. I didn't want to. I've already been on enough of an emotional roller coaster. Then for them to go ahead and just stab me straight through the heart with a battleth and losing someone to wrap this up, I would have just cried on out. But they,
I know.
yeah.
That's true.
But they all reunite on the bridge. Emotion hugs. We're all here, and Worf is sitting there snoring.
Welcome to the Enterprise.
Now we're in the aftermath, and Beverly Crusher has been
promoted
to Admiral, and she is now removing all the Borg code from everyone as they beam through, and they're scanning for changelings, and they catch a changeling in the transformer, and they grab them, and it's great. And then who do we see?
Tuvok.
Oh my God. And they explain it like, it turns out they weren't that terrible to our senior officers after all. And Tuvok is sitting there and he's reviewing Seven's actions, basically saying, listen, you disobeyed orders, you stole a ship, blah, blah, blah. And Seven's like, say no more, I'm just going to resign.
Hansen is reckless. She's unrelenting. Doesn't give a damn about protocol or procedure. However, she is brave and loyal, and the book that she writes is going to be great. And the rules that she breaks, maybe they were broken to begin with. So, in light of that, I have a recommendation. Promotion to captain when we return to port.
And then Tuvok plays Captain Shaw's review of her, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was done prior to them going on this whole entire mission.
Without a doubt, they said that. They said this is your review before you even got going on this mission. And Shaw's just like, she's a pain in the ass. She doesn't follow orders. She is a rebel. And he said, that said, maybe we need to have rules broken. I've never known someone so loyal and so determined, and I would highly recommend her for captain, and I will when we get back from this mission. And it just was, and Jerry Ryan produces, for the first time in my recollection, a tear. And that was a real tear. She sat there and listened to him and cried, and it was just beautiful. And Tuvok says, I reject your resignation.
Nicely done.
So great. Now, here's one thing I thought was going to happen, and we didn't see it. There was one person that I thought was going to show up this season, and they didn't. Who was it?
Janeway.
Janeway. Where was Janeway? Is she too busy being a holodeck program in Prodigy? Where was the Janeway?
That was probably the biggest disappointment for me. Was I wanted to see... Admiral Catherine Janeway, and she just, I was just like, oh, you couldn't get Kate Mulgrew to do it.
Yeah, it surprised me. Maybe she just doesn't want to be seen. Who knows?
Yeah, but we got Tuvok, and I was happy about that.
Yeah,
as the two of them were close anyway.
Yeah.
So
they were on the ship for 7 years.
Yeah, but they were like close on the ship, so it made sense. So I'm not mad at it.
Be happy with your family. Rafaela, warrior of the House of Musakura.
And you, Worf, House of Martok, continue to be a warrior for peace.
So we go to Raffi, and we find her, speaking to her son, her estranged son, and he wants her to meet the granddaughter. Yeah.
It was so cute. And that's great because that was a whole thing from the first season. And she's so excited about it. And Worf walks in and he's just like, this is good and family is good. And, this is good for you. And they hug.
Yes.
And it was a great, great moment. I loved it.
Warrior to warrior. They both acknowledged each other by their houses.
Yeah, I like that too. And it was almost like master and student too. And I liked that. I liked that Raffi was such a part of this, team, because it's not like the Next Generation crew's like, oh no, we can't have anybody else in. No, Raffi got to be in, Seven got to be in, Jack got to be in. It was nice.
Yeah, very, very nice moment. And then we find Data in a counseling session with Deanna Troi.
You're almost there. We've gone past our time by over an hour. Again.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Sometimes I feel joyful, others melancholy. Anxiety and ease, some anger. I witnessed an ensign feeding his cat the other day. And I wept.
She's just trying to plan a vacation, right? She wants to get out of there. I think the joke there was we're either going to the Lemper Prime or Orlando.
It's still there. Is Disney still there?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yep.
But Data's just going like, it's weird having these emotions because sometimes I feel really excited and other times I feel upset. And what does that mean? And having emotions is almost as hard as wondering what it was like to have emotions. He just keeps going on. And she goes, oh, we've gone an hour over.
Time's up.
Again. Again. But he finally lets her go. It was great.
If ever there was better evidence that the past mattered, it's right here.
How many times has she managed to save the world?
No doubt more than the years will allow three old men to remember.
It's difficult to imagine what we all might have been without her.
Different, certainly. But certainly not better.
And so we jump to 1 year later, and we find Geordi, Riker, and Picard on the bridge of the Enterprise. It's back at the Fleet Museum.
It is now, it's now perched outside the Fleet Museum. It's no longer in that
in the hangar
bay.
Yeah,
it's there in one of the circles, and it's proudly displayed. And they're on the bridge, the three of them, and they're just like, okay, man. This ship has gotten us through so many adventures. It's saved our lives 1 billion times,
Yep. And it's kind of like you've done your part and now you can rest, Enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
he says computer, begin shutdown sequence. And of course the voice is Majel Barrett. And I didn't say this last week, and I should have, but they used her voice last week too.
Yep.
I meant to say that, and I feel sad that I didn't mention that because to hear her voice, it's just you expect that in the Enterprise D, right? And they obviously pulled that from old files, but it was just wonderful to hear her.
Yeah, and Riker's like, miss that voice.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, I don't know who Terry Matalas is, but he just knows how to punch you right in the heart, and I mean like over and over and over. He's just. Amazing.
You want more love? I'll give you more love. You want more emotion? I'll give you more emotion. There you go. You can have it. He gave it.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
Yep. So now we jump to a shuttle, and Admirals Crusher and Picard are with Jack, and he's in a uniform, and they're headed to space dock.
Admiral Picard, Admiral Crusher, welcome to space dock.
I can't believe this. You're actually nervous.
please. I've run transport through Tyrellian minefields. I've had phaser fights with Orlick's duelists. I am not nervous.
Well, you're pacing nervously.
So did I the day of my first posting. I walked a light year in a circle before I mustered the courage to beam aboard.
And he's nervous, and it's like, okay, wait, remember he said, I'll never be Starfleet, and he's gone full force, right? He's now Starfleet. And they're like, why are you so nervous? And Picard's like, I remember my first day, I was so nervous. And Jack says, I may not be nervous for the reason you think. And when they open the doors, there's the Titan. And Picard says, oh, you're going to be on the Titan.
He's like,
Beverly
not
goes,
quite.
Not exactly. Now, the ship's been reclassified and renamed.
Yep, it is now the Enterprise G in honor of what Picard and company did to save the Federation and everyone.
So let me ask you this. What happens to the Enterprise F?
I think it's still around. I just think that they just reclassified the ship because that was the ship that saved everyone.
That explanation works for me. I don't know if they sufficiently explained that. Maybe they did, but when I saw Enterprise G, I was a little taken aback. I was like, wait a second. That's a small little Titan ship. It's not the beautiful futuristic ship that the F is with the double neck and all the stuff that it has. It's kind of this smaller ship. So what's the deal there? I do want to know. Are there two Enterprises now? What's the story?
I don't know. But it had already been just, redone, and it was part of the Neo Constellation class. So it's a new ship, and I just think it was just the tip of the hat, instead of throwing them on a new ship, why not christen this ship, the one that saved everyone? I think it was fitting.
That's a good argument. So Jack goes to the bridge, and he sits down in the chair, and there's that wonderful moment, like, out of the chair.
Yep. And this is Raffi, who's now Commander Raffi, who kicks him out of the chair.
Yeah, number one.
Yep, she's number one.
And our captain of the Enterprise is 7 of 9.
All right, this is a shakedown cruise only, everyone. Get ready for departure.
I still can't believe Starfleet saw fit to give a thief, a pirate, and a spy their own ship.
Bunch of ne'er-do-wells and rule breakers, really.
What could possibly go wrong?
And Jack is now has been appointed as a special counselor to the captain,
right,
in the left hand, I guess.
Which is again kind of an interesting post. Is that nepotism? Is he a counselor? What's the deal there? Who knows?
Yes, Jack already acknowledged the nepotism when he was in the shuttle with his parents.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And if he's still maintaining some of his skills, I think that he would be best served being at the left hand of the captain.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I think it's an interesting idea. Here's one thing they didn't do this season. They kept Seven and Raffi apart the entire time until the very end. They were girlfriend and girlfriend, right? I mean, what happened to that whole story? They were together.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that she went on her mission and they were going in separate paths, and I think that was the deal.
Are they together though, or is it over? It's like
an
Orville situation.
That it was over, but there's still some lingering something or another. But it's
so
all good.
So that might be
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
please go ahead.
No, start it off. Go ahead.
Well, of course, the big joke now around all these series is, what are you going to say when it's time to leave space dock? Everyone's got something, right? And so they're like, what's it going to be, 7 of 9? What's your catchphrase? Is it engage? Is it let's fly? What is it? And she starts to think about it, and Jack kind of interrupts. It's a big deal, They don't blow this. And she's just like, I don't know. And then she starts to think of something, and she opens her mouth, and we cut to the ship warping away. So that was a nice little trick.
Yeah, nice little cliffhanger, because it's all a setup. It's got to be a setup for Star Trek Legacy.
You think so?
Yes, because everybody's wanting it. The hashtag is out there.
Okay.
Terry Metalis wants this. He is, asked for,
so
asked
he'll be
to do it.
showrunner. Yeah.
So we're just waiting to see if they will do it. And I think the fact that Picard, made it into the top 10 of streaming speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So we will see.
And there's no reason not to do it. There's no reason not to do it, because they've got the money to do it and there's an interest. So make the damn show.
Yeah, exactly. So we catch up to the Enterprise D crew, our next generation gang, back at the bar.
I hate to say it, but I think this is the end of the road. We close this place down. Again.
Guinan's been giving us the side eye for the last half an hour.
That's because a certain someone has drained the bar of blood wine, Doctor. Let's have some music.
No.
Oh, come on, Worf, you have the most adorable voice. Have another glass of prune juice.
Perhaps it is time to call it a night.
There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune.
We're grateful to have ridden the tide with you.
Cheers.
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 And they mentioned Guinan, but she's not there. But Picard is generously flowing, and everyone's got something. Riker's got some kind of whiskey. Looks like Deanna's got Romulan ale. They're all drinking, and you could tell there were some jokes there. I mean, there was a couple little things thrown in, including Data trying to tell a joke. They're like, Data, say something. And he's like, there once was a girl from Nantucket. They're like, no, not that, which is an inside joke.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
And then, Picard offers a toast. I mean, just a very appropriate and moving toast. And then
it's beautiful quote.
Yeah, a quote. Yeah, and it's on to playing poker.
Yep.
Just as all good things ended.
It's same thing. Same shot, too. That overhead shot. But they really linger on it. They're watching them play. And you could see while they're showing their faces, they're genuinely having a good time. My guess is, I could be wrong, they saved that shot for the end, which probably would have been a great idea to do, just to get them there and knowing it's the last time. And despite the fact that part of me would have been more moved if we lost someone, I was so grateful that we didn't. Everybody's there. They're all playing poker. And it just was such a beautiful and appropriate ending. And it was a wonderful send-off.
Yeah, very much so. So the end credits go. We're done. But wait a minute.
Yeah.
But wait. There's more.
A la Marvel.
Yes, thank you, Marvel.
Young mortal, you have much ahead of you.
You told my father that humanity's trial was over.
It is, for him. But I'm here today because of you. You see, yours, Jack, has just begun.
Jack is in his quarters, and he's standing there, and we're like, oh, something's up. And I'm thinking, oh, is it the Borg Queen? Is it a cube thing? Blah, blah, blah. Who shows up?
Q.
And Jack's like, didn't you die? And Q's like, oh, again, the explanation to end all explanations. You mortals are so two-dimensional or three-dimensional.
Or linear.
Whatever. Yeah, linear. Exactly. Thank you. Linear. He's like, he says, well, I thought the trial ended. He's like, Picard's did, but yours is just beginning.
No, anyway, I like it. I like it. It's a nice twist. And in Q, for Q, because Q did have that power to move all over the place.
Yeah,
he might have died for Picard.
Yeah,
but he could have jumped to the future for Jack.
Yeah, maybe he did. I'm done trying to make sense of some of these things. As long as fans love it and I love it, and it's always great to see Q. And so, if there is a legacy, that means there's going to be an Enterprise G with Captain Seven and Raffi and Crusher. I assume they're calling him Jack Crusher, not Jack Picard.
Yep. Sidney LaForge.
And Sidney LaForge and whoever that dude was, and maybe the other LaForge, Elandra, and then we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but I think we will have a parade of next generation timeline folks that'll come in and out. Because that's how you would get a Worf. Because Worf has still got lots to roll with. You would still get Jonathan Frakes.
You're saying this is not the goodbye from this team. They could show up now and then.
Yeah, it was the goodbye for them as the original team.
The crew.
The crew.
Yeah.
But you don't have to sail all the characters off into the sunset.
Yeah.
I
think Geordi will probably be a big part of it. I hope he would be because I love him. I think probably Spiner's done, but Yeah, you never know.
You never know, and I think it's perfect. It's a perfect way of bridging it instead of just going flat out all new characters, which is always hard. Yeah. It's always hard because you've got to get invested. I watched the show FBI, did 3 FBIs, but I only watched 2 of them because, the first FBI was really great. The second FBI, Most Wanted, really worked. But then they did the third one, and it was no disrespect to it. They've had some really good episodes, but it was hard to kind of connect with these new actors because there wasn't anybody to bridge it.
Right. So they did do that. They bridged with that whole. They've got the whole crew set up and ready to go.
Yep. And so this works.
So
this could really work.
And it could be a whole. Well, it was a year later. That's true, but it could be a whole thing about, repairing the fleet, and I don't know who the enemy's going to be this time. We'll have to see.
Yeah,
because
and then you could bring in DS9
fight?
Characters that we haven't seen. You got Voyager. I mean, not Voyager, but Voyager characters that can come in and out.
Voyager, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of room to play with to give this show some juice, and then build on these new characters.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. We'll cover it.
Yeah.
We'll cover it here on Energize.
Yeah, there you go. So, a wonderful, wonderful season. I just can't say enough good things, and it was a wonderful
35 years.
Yes.
I'm so grateful that I was alive during Star Trek. I'm as old as Star Trek is, exactly. And it's always been a part of my life, and TNG has a special place in my heart, and I know it does for you. And it's just what a wonderful, wonderful way to go out.
Oh yeah, who I am, the way I think, how I approach life, my logic. I mean, I've told people this before. I mean, that is attributed from TOS through all the Star Trek series. I mean, I have that outlook on life, and I wish more people had it. I think we'd be in a much better place.
I agree. I totally agree. Star Trek could save us.
All right. Well, we're at the end, so let's talk about our favorite moment across the whole, this episode and the whole thing.
Well, okay, fair enough. For this episode, I'm going to go back to the graphics again, even though every part of this episode I loved. I just loved, I can't believe I'm saying this. The Enterprise D has been my least favorite ship, and yet I fell in love with it for the last 2 episodes. And the beginning of the episode, when they zoomed in on it, you can look into 10 Forward and all these other places. To me, I just got so giddy. I love what they're doing with all of the graphics. So I got to just say, everything was great, but I love that.
Okay. Well, for me in this episode, it was just all of the touching moments between all of the characters. Well acted, and that speaks across the entire series. So much was said without words.
Yeah.
And they really did a good job of having good writing with good acting without the words, with looks and pauses. They let this breathe, and it's much appreciated. That shows the caliber of writing when you know to back off the words.
Right, and it shows the genius of Terry Matalas to say, you know what, I'm not going to mess with these people. They're legends. I'm going to let them do their thing and nudge them in the right direction, but I'm going to let them do what they do, and he should be commended as a showrunner, because the whole season, if you want to think about just the whole season, it was the wonderful bit-by-bit addition of each character. It started with Beverly, and then we saw Worf, and then we saw Riker, and then we saw Geordi, and it just bringing everybody back. To me, that was what made the season so wonderful. They said 2 years ago there will be no Next Generation reunion, but I think they softened and they caved to fans' expectations, and they gave us, in my opinion, one of the best seasons ever of Star Trek.
Well, folks, that concludes this episode and this season of Energize.
Yes. We're going to be back in June with Strange New Worlds Season 2.
Yes, I cannot wait.
So,
the trailer's already out,
yes,
and check it out. They've already given us teases as to what's to come. So I'm looking.
It looks really great.
Yeah, eagerly looking forward to it.
For more information, you can go to our website, www.energizepodcasts.com. Also, my book, The Mindset Chronicles, Book 1, The Deletion, is available on Amazon. Search Steve Truitt or The Deletion.
Thanks for listening. I am Anthony McLemore.
I'm Steve Truitt. Live long and prosper. That's right.